It's all about serving the God of self. What's in it for me? What do I get out of this thing? To give money, to sow a seed. What is in it for me? The God of self wants to know, what do I get in return? If you are that kind of person, you are in serious trouble. A very good morning to each and every one of you. We warmly welcome all our Trinity members across the globe and locally. Thank you for being part of our family. It means the world to us. Thank you so much. Beloved, I'm going to take you on a journey this morning of exploration, discovering where we're heading and what's going on in the world contemporarily, so that we are kept abreast of the end of day events. And it's important that those who follow the Lord are kept abreast. They must not be caught unaware. Because you must remember that Jesus, he prophesied that he will come at a moment where he is not expected. And in order for you to have an expectancy, you got to know the events that are taking place as we move along into this new 2024 year. I'm going to start with a few things, but we'll start with a video clip identifying something very important. And you must remember at the back of your mind always that I mentioned to you that the Antichrist is going to be a supercomputer in the form of a human being that will make his presence revealed in the land that is today known as Israel. So, with that in mind, I also mentioned to you previously that a company called NVIDIA, has developed a supercomputer for Israel so that it can assist them. And I also hinted that this supercomputer is already in place and waiting to be revealed to the world. How long that will take, we have no idea. However, I want you to see a video clip showing how this artificial intelligent being is operating in that land. Watch.
My name is Meron Rapoport. I'm an Israeli journalist based in Tel Aviv, writer and editor in local call 972.
972 is a joint Israeli-Palestinian news outlet. Local Call is its Hebrew language sister site. They've been reporting closely on Israel's war on Gaza. And on November 30th, 972 and Local Call published an investigation into the Israeli army's war protocols, speaking to insiders in the military and in Israeli intelligence. They found there's been a major shift since the first days of the war.
What our investigation, I think, showed is that it seems that there is a substantial change in the way Israeli army is using its power in Gaza.
One, Meron says, is a much wider use of artificial intelligence.
The system specifically called the Gospel in English, which collects and creates and produces hundreds of targets in almost an automatic way.
This system generates bombing targets at an unprecedented scale. Here's Yuval Abraham, the reporter on that investigation, speaking to the show Democracy Now!
The rate of creating the targets is now faster than the rate that Israel is able to bomb the targets. And in this targets division, according to the army's sources, already 12,000 targets were created during this war in this targets division using these artificial intelligence tools.
This is done, as a factory to produce targets.
And that's how a former intelligence officer described it in the piece, a mass assassination factory.
So we learn a few things from this clip. It's telling us that the Israeli army or the leaders are targeting certain people and places that have been given to them by the artificial intelligence. So a computer is informing Israel where to target, where to explode the region, and the rate of which information is being given to the army by this artificial intelligent being is so fast that they cannot keep up. So this entire thing that's going on in the Middle East at the moment is supervised and controlled by an artificial intelligent being. You're going to start to see the workings of this being, and it started with this explosive event that is currently taking place on the residents of this land called Gaza. Let's move a little bit forward so that I can validify the comments that are made a bit earlier. An article of engineering tells us that AI brains in a lab, scientists create a computer with human brain tissue. So, whether it's been done already or is going to be done, the way that this Antichrist is going to be revealed, he's going to have human tissue and is going to appear to the world as a human being. However, he is going to be a machine. Moving a little forward concerning the rest of humanity, the elite Edomite Freemason cabal has already developed technology so that this technology can be used to control normal human beings such as you and me. And this technology is already operational in the world. Now, the idea is to not have any implant that people probably willingly will go to. Some will willingly go and put an implant, but they're going to do it without the knowledge of human beings so that there is no retaliation against them. But they want to be able to control every being on the planet so that they can dominate sufficiently. Now, I want you to watch this Twitter clip so that you can have an idea, a small idea of how, without the implant of a microchip, but there is an implant that is Wi-Fi connectable, and they have already tried this out in a lab. Watch this clip.
This is so crucial that people understand that mind control and controlling humans is actually happening now. And I really want the team, if you can, just play the B-roll of the rat leg moving. And before you do, I'm warning viewers, it is quite distressing footage, but you need to see it. This is 2 years ago, what they were doing, able to make a rat move against its will in their experiments. Okay, this is the Miami College of Engineering presentation. So this is not Neuralink, where you go and get a chip in your brain. willingly. This is wirelessly making a living thing move against its will. So if they 2 years ago were showing us this, which means that the technology was already 30 years ahead 2 years ago when they were showing this to the world, how far do you think that they've come now with their ability to make humans do things against their will, like the Rand Corporation brags about on their website, saying that they will be able to do coerce people and manipulate them to do things that they would not normally do? Dr. Anna, your input, please.
Absolutely. And if you look at psychotronic weapons, and really even what the military has discussed, that this is more powerful than any nuclear bomb, because when you can control people's mind, you can control the world. And what is very important, though, if you look at the statements of Dr. Robert Duncan, who actually wrote the AI software for some of the largest supercomputers that are monitoring people's brainwaves, and he was with the CIA, and he clearly said that via satellite, every human being's brain waves are being recorded and monitored, and if you're using more than 10% of your brain, you're actually going to be targeted. So even though this sounds like science fiction, their overall science is so far advanced. And
so they are able to control certain people, not certain, their aim is to control people using the experiment with mice to make people do things against their will. This reminds me of something I briefly mentioned to you a while ago, where you'll find that people start to act strangely, suddenly. People driving trucks might just carry on going and cause havoc and mayhem, things like that. Now, there are test subjects that are already operational. Now, if you know my teachings, you'll know that the people at the forefront of this, controlled by the Freemason cabal, is DARPA. That's the research division of the American government. Now, in this video clip that we just saw, this person that was speaking mentions the Rand Corporation, who has already claimed that they are able to manipulate and control the behavior of human beings. Now, I just want, as a matter of interest once again, I did mention to you last week especially that the Ashkenazi Jews, the Edomite people, the ones that we refer to and know to be fake Jews, as we saw in the book of Revelation, these people flood the marketplace, they flood corporations, heads of organizations, especially world-dominated organizations, financial institutions. These people sit at the helm. And this Rand Corporation that has already boasted about the ability to manipulate people is controlled by the president. President being Michael Leiter, another Ashkenazi Edomite. Having mentioned DARPA, I want you to be able to see their technology and what they have already got in place. Watch this clip.
March 16th, 2018. The U.S. government's Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, commonly known as DARPA, announces a bold initiative to develop what they call next-generation non-surgical neurotechnology. It is designed to allow the human brain to directly interface with machines.
We know that DARPA is exploring human-machine interfaces that include direct connections between the brain and outside systems. That's been from the beginning of DARPA's information technology mission, and it continues to this day. DARPA has created some of the most influential technologies of all time, things that we use and take for granted every day, including the project that became the internet. They've created self-driving cars, stealth technology, GPS that fits in your pocket. That's DARPA's specialty, to imagine the future and create it.
A new technology that is actually very much on the verge of being a reality that is being fielded is we could have a sensor maybe on the surface of our head, or maybe implanted somewhere in our body, in our brain, or something that allows us to interact directly with our communications gear, our processing gear, our weapon systems, and so on. But now imagine we take that technology and we can control robots at a distance with it. Even fly drones. You put this sensor on and you think the right way, and you can increase the speed of the fan by thinking and controlling that thought with direct-to-mind or mind-machine interfacing. With that type of capability, you could control all sorts of buttons and mechanisms in equipment.
Mind-machine interfaces will have many applications in both civilian and military life. But there are those who believe that this same technology could also be used by DARPA as a new form of mind control. Like their counterparts at the CIA, DARPA-funded researchers have spent decades investigating how the human mind can be altered. In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day.
There are explicit programs of DARPA to read and write to human brains, whether it's through direct implants within the brain or wearing some kind of cap. So these things are being worked on, and we know that.
So what's the next step? Maybe the next step is we can send instructions and information to an actual person from a distance with this kind of technology to let another person control their actions. But that could be something that could be malicious.
If there's some way to do it from a distance, a much greater distance than something that you can wear on your scalp, that would be the ultimate technological achievement that would fall into this realm of mind control and direct human-machine interface that DARPA may well want to keep secret.
In the near future, DARPA may possess the technology to remotely control the human mind. But as concerning as that may be, according to some scientists, a more permanent kind of mind control technology is looming. And it involves modifying the human brain by altering the human body's DNA.
The future of mind control, and the future being right now because these experiments are being done, is using gene editing tools. And one of them would be CRISPR. The way it works is take the CRISPR, which are these short alternating repeats of DNA. You put that together with an enzyme called Cas. And so you take the CRISPR that you want to use, and you put these pieces together that can be injected and insert this DNA to certain areas of the brain so that we can change brain cells and turn you into something you wouldn't otherwise be. So in this way, gene editing technologies like CRISPR really form a definite basis for future mind control.
So, now looking back from 2020, the things that have happened in the world, the mayhem and chaos that was created, forcing people to put something into themselves that people didn't want. It was by force. And many, many millions of people have already taken that poison into their bodies. So as you've seen this video clip, it is such an important clip that if you need to, you can go back and just absorb what is being said. They're going to connect, they are able to use this technology, this small letter M, capital letter R, capital letter N, capital letter A, that technology that we spoke about before when 2020 set upon us, that they were able to manipulate the genetic code of a human being simply by putting a poison of sorts into the human body so that they can cut and paste a new gene into the human genome. Now, this genome that is now cut and pasted into the human is actually a wireless connection to that human. And I've shown you during that period when we were going through this chaos and pain that was installed upon so many people, I mentioned to you and I showed it to you in video clips that there is something organic that has been put into people. And when you cut and paste something, we learnt about the CRISPR system, the Cas9 thing, and how they actually use that technology to put something in a human being which is not like a metal thing that goes under the skin. No, no. This is wirelessly connecting directly to the human genome. And this is what DARPA has already realized. They are able to do this. And so, when we look back at 2020 for the reason why this new small letter M, capital letter R, capital letter N and capital letter A, why this technology was introduced, if you are smart enough by now and you saw this video clip that we just played for you, it will tell you that they're trying to create human beings or recreate beings which can be controlled from a distance by an artificial intelligent being. So when Revelation tells you that people will bow down and worship this thing, this is not an exaggeration. This is a command that the thing will give to people, and people will submit, because they will even do things against their will. This is how important it is for people not to take anything into their bodies, because there are nefarious people in the world. And if people are oblivious of these things, they will just give in to whatever is being put down their bodies without a second thought. And some people sometimes tell me, what could I do, Pastor? I wouldn't have been able to do this. But what they want you to do is, when the time comes, to bow to the Antichrist. And this is the setup. Now, this disease that we had in the last few years, this is not the end all and be all of the thing that they're going to poke you with. No, no. They're going to have roller coaster outbreaks of different problems, sicknesses upon the human body. And people are going to go in for pokes of different kinds, but every new type of poke that's coming in has all of them have this new technology of small letter M, capital letter R, capital letter N, capital letter A. They all have that technology, and you can bet your bottom dollar that they are going to implant it in as many people as possible, because when the time comes, that wireless connection needs to be installed. So what's the agenda? To control and to even put off the switch. If somebody has control over your DNA, they can switch genes on and off. You can get sick, you don't even know why. You can get cancer, you don't know why. They can put the switch off so that your heart stops functioning, because everything is controlled by your DNA. So here's something very interesting. We heard much about the Taliban of Afghanistan in 2001 when the Twin Towers came down. That too was something that, I just hope you didn't swallow all the things that they've told you. However, when that took place, these people became a terrorist organization. And they are active not just in Afghanistan, but they are active in Pakistan. But why am I telling you this? Because there is currently claimed by these world leaders that Pakistan has a polio outbreak, and Pakistan and Afghanistan are one of the only two countries in the world that where this polio thing has become an endemic. And you'll remember and know this, that much of this disease was already prevalent and is prevalent in many parts of Africa. However, let's look at this Pakistan thing. Now, the government, and this is one of the reasons why they had to get rid of Imran Khan, the government have decided, because they have received instructions, to eradicate this polio. So what they're doing is they're giving pokes to over 1 million children, more than 1 million, 3 million or so children, and many adults. They're giving pokes to these people. And in those pokes, they got the same technology. Small letter M, capital letter R, capital letter N, capital letter A. They got that same technology in those medicines that are coming. I'm calling it medicine because, as you'll remember, medicine is actually witchcraft. That's the Greek name for medicine, is witchcraft. So they want to put this inside of a human body and hijack, they gave that human body the potential to be hijacked. And so the Taliban, who is not part, from the evidence we see, of the cabal system, they are attacking all the health workers. There's some 300,000 or some odd health workers around the whole of Pakistan that are running around with this medicine, and they want to poke it into as many children and adults as possible with the guise to eradicate polio. So as they're going around, the Taliban is killing them. And so the government has posted police officers to go with these health workers to make sure that the poke goes into the people. And so there's a video clip I want to send you, and I want you to see this report. But before you see the report, the news reader, the host, is asking a cabal appointee in Pakistan, what's the reason why Taliban doesn't want these children to be poked? And the answer he gives is quite lengthy. He gives 3 reasons. But one of the reasons, we're going to go to just one reason. One of the reasons is he says that they want popularity. They want to show their power and the extensive reach across Pakistan. That's the reason why they're killing police officers, and they are destroying health workers and killing them. But you and I now, knowing everything I've just shared with you in the last few minutes, you can understand why the Taliban doesn't want that. Because they're not stupid mountain people. They are very, very smart. Many of them have direct knowledge of the plans that are to come. So they know why they don't want the poke to come into people, because they know that once it comes in, these people are able, the cabal is able to control and manipulate and switch off many people. So just watch this clip and take note of the excuse or the reason why this cabal appointee young man that's sitting in Pakistan gives the reason why Taliban is attacking. Watch.
At least 6 police officers have been killed in a bomb attack in northwestern Pakistan. Now, they've been assigned to protect workers carrying out a polio immunization campaign. The attack was carried out near the border with Afghanistan in Mahmud. The Pakistani Taliban has claimed responsibility. Now, polio vaccination drives in Pakistan are regularly marred by violence. Pakistan and Afghanistan are the only countries in the world where polio remains endemic.
It's our responsibility to provide police security to every polio vaccination team, whether it consists of 2 people or 1. We send the security from here to far-flung places. Today, they targeted the police truck.
Zishan Salahuddin is the director of the Centre for Regional and Global Connectivity at the Tabadlab think tank. He joins us now live from the Pakistani capital, Islamabad. Good of you to join us on the programme, sir. The ongoing attacks on medical workers trying to immunise those against polio continue, but why?
Well, there's lots of reasons for that, Sahil. The principal reason among them is the fact that when polio campaigns do happen, a lot of these groups are vying for legitimacy. They want to demonstrate their strike capability. They want to showcase the fact that they have access to various parts of the country to be able to wreak havoc and conduct their violent operations.
Once again, I want to remind you, it's laughable. The spin doctor, cabal-appointed spin doctor, wants to lie to the world. Now imagine if you didn't know all these things that I'm sharing with you. Imagine if you were in the dark. How would you know the agenda? How would you know? You probably swallow everything these spin doctors are saying. Whatever the news broadcast is saying, you probably will swallow it, not knowing the real agenda. Now, when this poke came into being, and it's going to continue in different forms for different sicknesses. It's going to continue. Even when babies are born in the hospital, it's going to continue. Everything they're going to give you is now going to contain this small letter M technology. Now, I want you to think very carefully about this, because this is so vital for the salvation and preservation of your soul. Because once your gene has been altered and manipulated, you have the potential to be hijacked. Once you have that potential, the Lord will not have any dealings with you, because you will no longer be in His image. Your genetics would have changed. I think we shared extensively about that. Now imagine this. Imagine if you have a spiritual leader, whether he be a pastor or any other leader, whether it be even a teacher or your doctor, who instructs you that this is the right thing to do so that you can protect your health and your family's health. Now imagine if your shepherd does that. Let's go even one further. How do you think that shepherd is able to speak the words of God into his flock if he himself is poked? You're going to have a shepherd who is and can be hijacked and controlled, and because of that, he will advise all his congregants to do the same. And if not, every word he spews is going to be connected to every person listening to him. Therefore, this information I'm giving to you is vital, so that wherever you are around the world, if the shepherd you chooses to not even mention what's going on, because obviously they might not even know, chooses to even promote it if they do know, and these are the people that you have to be very careful about, the wolves in sheep clothing. And they can manipulate and they can cost God's kingdom souls. That's why wisdom has to be introduced into you, so that, you see, I give you information. Wisdom helps you to understand that information. And when you understand that information, you become one in oneness with God, so that nobody can trick you. You are preserved. That preservation is not up to God. That preservation is up to you. That's the reason why I've been so desperately trying to show you the importance of installing wisdom and pursuing it. Now, when I see on my feed, on the social media feeds, I come across people who pass away. But what breaks me is when I see people who are in their 30s, in their 20s, passing away with what is being known as natural causes. My heart breaks, and it goes out to all the bereaving families. I pray that, just in a week, I can't show you everything that comes across, but my heart just broke when I saw young people that are called away. And you wonder, in this day and age, how dangerous it can be without knowing what the world governments are up to. So say a prayer for every child, and I call people of that age children, every child and every family that's bereaving. But I pray that as I enlighten you, that you and your household, having the enlightenment of God, will be spared this agonizing pain. Now, going back to the pokes, this technology is being installed via medication in clinics. It's moving at a rapid pace. However, as I mentioned to you before, the cabal have a multi-pronged approach. For people that are not willing and will have to be coerced into agreeing to take this kind of poke, I want you to listen to a small video clip of somebody speaking about what the new currency of the world is going to be. I've spoken to you many times about the blockchain CBDC, and it's being activated. It's already activated in China, and it's coming across the globe very soon, very quickly. Watch.
The next is carbon tax, a global price on carbon. For me, this is the end game for central bank digital currency. They have found a way to make carbon a commodity and give it a price. So I would expect that people would definitely question the science around climate, the climate crisis, when it's given carbon a price, that maybe it's a little bit more suspicious, and you might want to take a look at that. We are moving into a carbon credits system that can only be implemented through central bank digital currency and a digital ID. The digital ID will be rolled out within the next 12 months. 12 to 24 months will be the digital ID and the central bank digital currency. You have India, who have the Aadhaar digital ID. They're rolling out, they're piloting their central bank digital currency now in December. China already have it. Over 50% of the countries around the world are looking at it, piloting it. There is that overarching, beyond the social and the political fighting that's going on, there's an overarching financial reset that is the elephant in the room that nobody is actually talking about. That is going to be reset to social and carbon credits. Net zero is not about saving the planet. Net zero is about taking control of the food and the energy and finding a way to turn that into a currency. It will be done through carbon credits. Carbon credits is the new currency. It will be a combination of social and carbon credits.
So are you saying that's going to be the only currency? There won't be any other currencies? This will just be like the social credit system in China, where there's a score and people have to try and maintain that score or things like that? Like, is that it? There won't be anything else?
Well, that's the suggestion. When you think that from their point of view, there is too many people on the planet and not enough resources for these people. Now, there is enough resources. Saudi Arabia has enough oil for 500 years. There is enough food There should not be any hunger in the world. There is enough food. It's politics that gets in the way of that. But if you're coming from a perspective that you think that there is not too many people and not enough energy resources, you either reduce the population or ration the energy resources, or both.
And what do you think they're choosing to do then?
There is population decline and demographic decline in the West. They're moving to ration the food and the energy. The fiat currency is based on absolutely nothing. It's the faith of the people. And with inflation, that starts to lose faith in the currency. So they're scrambling to get in a new currency. The new currency will be a credits system, because the credit system is based on what is tangible wealth, food and fuel. So they take control of that, turn it into a currency and issue it through central bank digital currency, which is programmable money. They have total control. It's individual monetary policy. They have complete control over every aspect of your life. Where you go, what you eat, what you buy, what you do, everything. That's the capability of central bank digital currency.
A lot of people that I have spoken to have pretty much said, well, if I have nothing to hide and this means that I have a guaranteed income, then okay, yeah, I'm okay with that. But the reality is, what's going to happen if we don't do something about this? What is really going to be the situation?
Well, you are at the mercy of the dictate of the government or the shadow government. There's no one that agrees with every single policy from government. So at some stage, you're going to disagree with something and you're going to be cut off. You're going to be sanctioned with the penalties. And people need to realize that they're not going to agree with everything. I can take absolutely any individual and explain to them why it's a terrible idea for them. If you're on universal basic income and you like to drink wine and you buy 2 bottles of wine, they can decide, oh, that's not good for your health, so we're going to stop you from buying wine. They can stop you from buying any goods.
Now, the BIS Bank is the biggest bank in the world. You remember I showed you a whole video clip on how when this Dutch banker Ronald came out to speak about what they're doing, their activities in pedophilia, in erasing people's consciences. I shared with you that they killed him. They targeted him and killed him because he was opening his mouth. He gave a lengthy video of all these happenings. And this BIS bank has its own country, it has its own army, and the people that are in that organization, that bank, cannot be prosecuted. They are above the law. And who's sitting there? Edomites. Now, this BIS bank, being the biggest bank in the world, they control the World Bank, and they control all the governing, the reserve banks in all the world. And when they say something and give an instruction, it has to be carried out by the reserve banks, which goes down to your banks. They have to carry out what they've been told. And soon we're going to have, as you might have seen, digital tokens, CBDC currency, digital ID to buy and sell. This is where the Lucifer rays will come in. The same thing that I was talking about coming in. You cannot, this is the idea of the devil, the one that Revelation spoke about. You cannot buy and you cannot sell anything unless you have this new currency and you have Wi-Fi connect directly to your gene. This system is created by what God calls the beast, which is the Cabal Freemason. So watch this clip.
Here's a question. Would you let someone implant a microchip into your hand if you would receive $2,000 a month? A month in return for getting a chip put in your hand. You heard me right. We'll give you universal basic income, basically, 2,000 euros, $2,000 a month, if you allow us to put a microchip in your hand. That's exactly what's about to happen as part of the rollout of the central bank digital currencies. That's a carrot for them to rope you into this mess. We'll get to that part of the story in a minute, the chip implantation process, not the corn chip, as Dan said in our chat, but a actual metallic tracking chip. But a new report just published this week by the Bank for International Settlements explains how our new digital money system is about to work. We've been warning you that this was coming for a long time on this show. Also, we weren't the only ones predicting this. It was predicted in a little book, you might have heard of it, called The Bible, The Mark of the Beast. For one thing, this is how this new system would operate. According to them, the Bank for International Settlements, the new reserve currency, forget the dollar as you know it, basically. This will be the new reserve currency, which is how they want to label it and how they are labeling it. This would be used to settle all transactions. As everyone moves away from the U.S. dollar right now, this seems like perfect timing to be moving to this new system. So are they purposefully torpedoing the U.S. dollar in preparation for a global new reserve currency? One might wonder, right? We don't believe in conspiracy theories around here, but you have to wonder. It could include the confiscation of all property, physical property. By assigning it, every item would receive a real world item would receive its own unique digital token. So what do you guys think about this, right? This idea that they could, I'm not saying they're going to, but your car, your house, all of these sort of physical items that need a token process, you have to get them digitally tokenized in order for you to claim ownership of these items. No more selling cars without a digital token, right? No black market of selling cars. They all have to be tokenized. They all have to have a digital tracking ID to know exactly who owns them through this, what they call this transparent process.
So it's like a blockchain for the world.
Right. I mean, it would be on the blockchain, right? Everyone would be given a tokenized digital ID. And I'll explain more about exactly the tokenization process in a moment. But basically, the idea that if you don't comply with this, then we're going to take your property and tokenize it ourselves is the idea. And they won't come out and say this, but that's exactly what some people are worried about, is that they would take your items, they would take your physical property and do it for you, or confiscate it altogether if you're not willing to comply. And think of it like contraband. It would be considered contraband. Imagine trying to go through the airport or airport security with that laptop that you didn't have tokenized, so there's no digital footprint of it. Oh, what is that? What is that item that you're carrying there? Why do you have that there? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have it registered with the government. I don't have a digital ID for that item? No worry, we'll take it off your hands. So your digital wallet, your car, your house, your laptop, your phone, all of it assigned a digital token. Inside those tokens would be a set of rules for how each item can and cannot be used, so that each person can be controlled and conditioned directly by the central bank. You've used your digital wallet to buy your allotment of beef or chicken this month, you're cut off. You're cut off. Your wallet is not limited. Your wallet is now limited until next month. And by the way, you think this is like a conspiracy theory. The Federal Reserve, literally on their website, loves and talks about the benefits of expiring currency, the expiration of currency. And hey, China's already doing it in part. So there's already limitations and expiration of currency. We already have this. And the Fed is openly talking about this on their website. Think this is a dream? Okay, just wait until it happens. Let's actually let them describe. So here is, after this Bank of International Settlements rolled this out last week, here is their tokenization process in their own words. Just watch sort of let me know if you think that this is creepy in any way. Watch.
Tokenization is more than just a digital representation of money and assets. It involves digital representation on a programmable platform, which means that tokens can incorporate the rules and logic governing transfers, as well as the information about the asset itself. Now, currently, money and other claims reside in separate databases that are connected through third-party messaging systems, meaning that transactions need to be reconciled separately before being settled with finality. Tokenization makes all this one seamless operation.
Now, CNBC has an article. Listen to this. universal basic income of nearly $2,000 a month to be trialed in England for the first time, published June 5th last year. They're moving full steam ahead. They are offering in Europe, in America, $5,000 or $2,000 or 2,000 euros a month to people so that they can implant something, which I explained to you in detail a little earlier on what that implant entails, the poking. And these people are going to now rely on that income as a temptation. So when they come around the world offering this thing, before they can threaten, they have to do the offering first and then they'll threaten. And then they'll hold people's money back. And then they got expiry money, money that expires. So if they give you this amount of your salary and it comes in the token which goes directly in under your skin, there's no bank card, it's not going to be any more like the money, it's going to be a central currency. And once that money gets you use for the month, it doesn't get carried over like how you have a bank account now. It expires. There's like food going off. That's how your money will go off. So this design, I want you to just think for a moment, if there's any people who are skeptical about what the world is up to, the world governments. Just think the reasons why people will go to such lengths to do something. The reasons why the Bible specifically mentions this policy that's coming into place. And it's not coming slowly. It's going to be done expediently, as we saw. The article tells us that Britain is already trying it out. Now, this cabal-run company called Woolworths, they support the gay pride thing. They have come out with an article this week to try out going cashless in their restaurants. So from the 16th of January, they won't be taking any cash payments. They're going straight to the card. And soon, in fact, the government has said, the Reserve Bank, they said they have no problems with it. That companies are going to start to do that and it's going to become quite normal. Now we're going to some scripture. At the end of it, I'll demonstrate why I'm sharing this with you. I gave you a hint last week about the God of self. But let's read Genesis, because I think perhaps you probably didn't see this before. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. This is what God told to Adam. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. Now, last week I shared with you about the God of self, the false God. It may surprise you to know that most of the world, they follow, this is the God they worship, the God of self. And it's so important for you to understand this, that no matter what religion people are, even the people who are Christians, they follow a fake God. That God is called the God of self, and I'm going to demonstrate this to you so that you can have. Now, what is a God? A God is what we run to when we need to be validated, when we need help, when we need encouragement. Because we believe that this God has the power to give us what we need. The self-God is a compelling God because it arises out of our deepest desires and wants. When the serpent tempted Eve to disobey God's direct command about eating the forbidden fruit, he appealed to the God of self in Eve. He used feigned credulity to tempt her to consider God's command unfair. Feigned incredulity means, oh man, how can God do that to you? That is so unfair. It's like something that's so hard to believe that God did to Eve. He faked it, like he was shocked. And that awakened Eve's God of self. The God of self questions God's motives. Remember this. Underline it in your mind. The God of self questions God's motives. Now, Eve's response, I want you to, most of you are going to have your mouths open because you probably didn't see this before. God had said, this is what Eve told back to the serpent, you shall not eat it. She added this part, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Now, God did not tell them not to touch it. He only told them not to eat it. But the God of self in Eve added that part to make God look more unfair than he was, to justify what she was about to do. And that's what the God of self does. It makes you doubt God. It makes you question God. It makes you believe that God is unfair for setting such rules in place. The God of self makes you question God all the time. When God's wisdom tells you to do something, you have this habit of questioning it because it goes against your desires. It goes against your wishes. And this is where the God of self in a person awakens. As soon as wisdom directs you on a path, and it goes against, I really don't wish to do this, you find an excuse to question God's motive. And I want you to think carefully about how many times you question God's motive, and tell me if the God of self was not awakened in you. I pray that it's not you that is watching. The God of self competes, therefore, naturally now, with the God Almighty. And the God of self interferes with your thought. But once your thought tries to overthrow God's wisdom about what decision you're going to make, that's the time 2 Corinthians, Paul was trying to tell us something. He says, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of Christ, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. So obedience of wisdom. Who is Christ? Wisdom. So every time, let's say you come to me for some wisdom as your shepherd, or any other shepherd that has wisdom, and you go to them and they tell you what's the right thing to do. And you have a thought in your mind, oh, I don't know what pastor is telling me to do. But inside of you, you argue with yourself. Now that thought, you need to tramp it and bring it under subjection to the will and the wisdom of God. Unless you do that, the God of self will start growing in you, and soon it'll become an adult. The God of self will gladly worship a God of love, but resists, fights against learning about the other qualities, because those will dethrone self, the God of self. Put it another way, most of the time we know what the right thing to do is, but the God of self wrestles against God so that the God of self can sit on the throne of that being. The God of self, that person who has the God of self as something he worships, he has no regard for other people's feelings, even at home with the family. What they want and what they desire is more important than what anybody else wants. That's the God of self. It awakens Its desires must be adhered to at any cost. Sometimes children grow up with the God of self birth in them. They go into adults, and husbands and wives and partners, they all, boyfriends and girlfriends, they all want the God of self in them. Once it arises, it wants what it wants, and it starts to fight, and it starts to argue. And can you imagine if two people, for example, worship the God of self in a house? Oh my goodness. If one person worships a God of self, then they will alienate everybody else in the house. There'll be no peace in that house. People will be walking on eggshells, making sure they don't set this person off. If two people are like that, they're going to end up in a divorce, they're going to end up in fights, they're going to end up even to the point of murder and destruction, because they want what they want. The God of self is so powerful. And this kind of home is evil. Okay, let me just say it in a way that might not offend many people. It becomes dysfunctional. Do you remember the story of Judas? Judas was the treasurer of Jesus. And he collected the people's offerings. And he collected money. He was entrusted. I'm using that term loosely, because Jesus already knew what he was going to do. But when Jesus said, I'm going to go away, the coffers are going to dry up. Who's going to give offerings? So Judas decided he's going to make a quick buck for himself with these Pharisees and collect all the money and sell Jesus out, and that'll be. Who was he serving? The God of self. He was thinking about himself. And he put himself first. The wisdom of God about what he was doing came against what he was doing, and he rejected it because this God of self wanted to sit on his throne and make the decision. Eventually that man lost his soul. You know, when it comes to this prosperity gospel preachers, they are, the God of self for them, think about this, is a hero. These leaders, and even now their followers, it's all about serving the God of self. What's in it for me to come for this crusade? To come for this healing meeting? What's in it for me to attend this gathering? What do I get out of this thing? To give money, to sow a seed. What is in it for me? The God of self wants to know, what do I get in return? If you are that kind of person, you are in serious trouble. You got to get rid of the God of self, and you got to do it quickly, because you can. Only you and your spirit alone decides who's God over your life. And when you follow wisdom, it's a tough choice. But many of you are able to make it. I have the assurance in me. Let us say you want to start a business, and the wisdom of God tells you, listen, be careful not to yoke yourself with an unbeliever, because light has no relationship with darkness. But when you want to start a business and you're struggling, and you in dire need to make sure that this thing prospers, the God of self tells you, don't worry about that. You go into partnership with that person. Who went against God? God's wisdom tells you, because eventually you'll pay the price for it. Because if people don't respect God, they will rob you, they'll steal from you, and you will get hurt and destroyed. You see, the God of self has needs and dreams and desires, and must be fulfilled. Many people will even entertain the God of self, and they'll wrap their decision up in biblical scripture, all out of context. But they have the gift of doing that. You remember what Eve did? She spoke even a lie. She changed God's words around so she can justify her decision. You know, you look around and there's nothing wrong with giving God glory about the size of a building for people to come and worship Him. But if you think about it, when people build these big monuments for people to come and worship, what do you think the motive is? The motive is to bring people so that they can serve God? Or is the motive the God of self wants to look important, wants to look big and successful, the God of self? Just think about that at the back of your mind. I'm going to read to you something now that might be a bit touchy, but I want you to listen to it anyway, because this is a teaching, and whether you like it or not, God teaches it. So let's look at the book of Acts chapter 5. But a certain man named Ananias with Sapphira his wife sold a possession, and he kept back part of the proceeds, his wife also being aware of it, and brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. But Peter said, Ananias, why has Satan filled your heart to lie to the Holy Spirit and keep back part of the price of the land for yourself? While it remained, was it not your own? And after it was sold, was it not in your own control? Why have you conceived this thing in your heart? You have not lied to men, but to God. Then Ananias, hearing these words, fell down and breathed his last. He died, the poor fellow. So great fear came upon all those who heard these things. And the young men arose and wrapped him up and carried him out and buried him. After 3 hours, Sapphira entered in verse 8. And Peter answered her, tell me whether you sold the land for so much. That's the amount she brought and came. She said, yes, for so much. Listen, they could have kept everything. But the God of self wanted to keep something for themselves, which is nothing wrong, because they needed to live. But the problem is, the God of self wanted to be propelled, picked up in the eyes of the apostles. So they said, yeah, we gave everything. But Peter said, you could have kept something back and told us, I kept something back for myself. It was yours. You have a right to keep it. And then give that. But why did you lie? That you gave everything. Because the God of self made them. Oh, this God of self is alive and well in many people around the world. Many of who are believers, just like Ananias and Sapphira. That's why they sold their land, because they were believers. They believed in Jesus. But the God of self showed up and was birthing them when they saw money flow in. You know, I've been leading a congregation now for around 25 years. I've done work before. I've worked in the corporate world before. This is the most challenging, demanding faith than any other work that can be done. You see, at the end of every month when you go to work, when I used to even work in the corporate world, you know that on the 25th, your salary is going to be in your account. When you are a pastor, dependent, your survival, your food on your table, the bills you rack up for the month, when it's dependent on whether people don't worship the God of self, it demands faith. I've been doing it for 25 years. Because at the end of every month of those 25 years, how do I know that every work that I put in, God will make sure that I don't go without? I have to have faith for that. Can you imagine the people who follow, who serve God, who watch, who are part and parcel? If they decide every month the God of self rules in them, why must we? why must we? Yeah, he need to take care of himself. We, as long as we take care of our family, our bills, who cares? Who speaks in that way? The God of self. And this God of self robs God's kingdom of his very best at times. Because many of God's true servants, they struggle because the God of self sits in many of the people who take from them the blessing of God. I want you to have that in your mind. The God of self is birthed in children. The children feel self-importance. Oh, you bought that for him. Why didn't you buy for me? Is that your favorite child? What about me? Why was I born in this home? Other people have good homes, Lord. They're born with good two parents. Why has this happened to me? Why did I have to grow up with people that abused me? Why? That's a God of self speaking. Because he wants to be pampered, and it's justifying all the actions a person does from there on. So it's important. Even when your child has something, if the child starts to hoard it instead of sharing it, there's certain things you keep and there's certain things you can share with your brothers and your sisters. But once that is installed, the God of self is actually, it's arriving. And it's going to be in full bloom soon. So be very careful. Many people in many countries, we're going broad. They have a sense of entitlement. We came first to this land. This is our land. Our grandfathers fought very hard for this land. And this is, nobody else has a right to that. The sense of entitlement, who does that? The God of self. Oh man, this God is powerful. And it's not something that's abstract. It's something that lives in a being. There's many unsuspecting people that don't realize the God of self rules in their lives. And for these people, Jesus spoke these chilling words in Matthew. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. I'm not far off from closing. 2 Timothy chapter 2 shows us the power of the God of self. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needed not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. There the word again, it's the wisdom of truth. Word means logos, which is wisdom. Study to show thyself. Now, let me show you this. How the God of self works. When your children are growing up, even you at an older age, you want the world to give you things. And everybody knows, in order for the world to give you things, you got to study. You got to go to the universities. You got to do correspondence. Whatever you do to qualify in your field, you got to study. You got to soak in that knowledge. And so that equips you now to earn money, to live in the world. And, when you look, you're always reminded of this. When you come to a funeral service and you look at that box of people who have studied all their lives, who've worked hard all their lives, to invested in themselves in the knowledge of this world. That university is world knowledge now. You know the things of this world. Where's it gone? It's of no value. But people go to all lengths to get that knowledge, to look for that knowledge, to seek it. They go and take loans from the banks to make sure they get educated because they want that knowledge. Now, let me ask you this. How many people, that knowledge is temporary, as I showed you in the funeral service. How many people take the time to study the wisdom of God, to go after it? Some people don't even bother to tune in on Sunday morning. Some people don't even look even deeper than what they've been hearing. They're just satisfied. So the effort that the God of self puts in itself for the world things dominates compared to the one who doesn't have the God of self as their God. So I want you to evaluate. This is a time it's time for me to help people. Now don't feel bad. Don't feel like, I feel so bad about how I've been acting. I didn't realize I was entertaining. No, you don't have to. All you have to do is say, Lord, forgive me. His blood washes clean. He will purify you in an instant. There is no debating that. So don't feel like the devil wants to make you feel guilty. No. You correct and you start afresh and say, Lord, from this moment on, my life is going to be invested in the word. This is what it means, not the Bible. Paul wasn't talking to Timothy about studying the Bible. There was no Bible. He was talking about the wisdom of God. So I want you to pursue it with everything you have. Lastly, I want to close with this. The devil uses these Edomite people, but what of them? The God of self in them. That's why they want to dominate the world for themselves. They want to kill populations so they have a better life for themselves. They want to rule for themselves. God of self. This is the reason why they want to put pork, they want to have currency to control, they want to have everything, because the God of self has appealed to them from a very early age. And so, we do not want to be emulating them in any way. So, this is the reason why during this part of the year, most places and churches and pastors recommend a 21-day fast. And we're starting that. But I want to do it different this year. I want you to control your own relationship with God. You must do this on your own. I'm not going to set a date. I'm not going to set a time frame. You choose. Let it be done before Good Friday. I want you to choose a time where you start your 21-day fast on your own. You can have any type of fast. Stay away from meat and sweets for 21 days, or you can do a morning to evening for 21 days. You can eat anything after 6 till 6 in the morning, but during the day you can have nothing except water and some liquids, of course. So you can choose the way you want. You want to do a half a day fast, anything you want, you decide. And that will help the God of self to die, so that you stop chasing your desires if it goes against the wisdom of God. Can we do that? Let me pray with you. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the love you've shown to all of your children. I thank you that, Lord, that we will diminish and you will increase. That everything we desire will fall in line with you, or we will bring that to naught. Cover us, all your children, with your blood. Keep us till we meet and feed again at your table. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you, beloved. We remember God loves you and He wants you to be strong. I pray that you will resist every temptation. I'll see you next week. God bless.